Hi, fasters. Welcome to Old Fat and Fasting. The first rule of fasting, you don't tell people you're fasting. If you're at a social event and you're offered food and you're fasting, if you're comfortable telling the people that you're fasting, go ahead and do it. But it's also okay to say, I'm sorry, I've already had something to eat. And you don't have to make excuses for yourself. You'll sort of get to where you'll know your audience, at least for the most part, of who might be accepting of your new lifestyle and those that are going to have some concern. And Chris is going to talk later about what arsenal to have to go into those situations. You don't have to tell people you're fasting, just like you didn't tell people, hey, you know what? I ate 3 times yesterday and I had 2 snacks. If you don't tell them when you ate, you don't have to tell them when you don't eat. So that's all up to you and knowing your audience.
Yeah, and it's perfectly fine just to say, I'm not hungry, or something like that too. You know? Just because you're offered food, you don't have to accept it. So
right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so like Lori said, you'll kind of get to know, and you probably already know, if you're thinking about fasting, there's certain people in your life that you know they're going to be opposed. And they're going to give you all these reasons that you shouldn't be doing it, all these reasons that it's not healthy. You're starving yourself. You're not going to get enough nutrition. It's the latest fad. It's going to, nobody's going to be fasting a year from now. It's just the latest diet thing and all these things. And then you probably know the people who are going to be open to it. You kind of have a feeling for that right now, probably. Lori and I did. We knew there were certain people who were going to be concerned, and their concerns are legitimate. I completely understand why they have those concerns.
Yeah, they haven't done the research you've done.
Right. They've heard what we've all heard, since we were little kids in school learning about nutrition, right? So yeah, they're just going on. It's like when we talked about doctors the other day. Their reaction is based on what they know, right? So because they don't know that it's a really healthy choice, they're going to be concerned. One of the things that people will probably say if you decide to tell them is that when you fast, you're starving yourself. You're not starving yourself.
No.
Your body has lots of nutrients. I was going to grab my middle. Right here is
so much food.
Excess nutrients. Yeah. You are not starving yourself. There's a quote from Jason Fung. Lori found this. Is this in Life in the Fasting Lane? Okay. We'll put a link to that book in this video, like we've done a bunch of other ones.
Yes.
Because it's just a great book. But one thing that Jason Fung says in that book is fasting isn't like starving. The difference between the two is clear. One is a choice and one is involuntary. It's the difference between recreational running and running because a lion is chasing you, which is a great comparison.
It's wonderful.
He always has a way of coming up with these great analogies for stuff.
Which helps me because everything has to be dumbed down a little bit for me to go, just like when we write our little who's going to do what, I'm like, you're doing the sciencey stuff.
She doesn't give herself enough credit. But it's true. So when you're starving, you don't choose to starve yourself, right? People starve because they don't have access to food, or they have an eating disorder, right? Which is not a choice.
Right.
Right. So you are not starving yourself. This is a choice you're making, and you make the choice that you're going to start. You're going to stop eating at this time, and you're going to start again at this time. You're not saying I'm going without food, I'm never eating again.
Yeah.
Right. So one term you might hear when you hear people talk about fasting is feast and famine. Right. And that's one of the basic rules of fasting is you have a time that you eat, feast, which does not mean that you binge.
It's not Thanksgiving, people.
Or you stuff yourself, right? But you have a feast time, a time that you say, I'm going to eat this time. And then you have a famine time, which is when you decide not to eat. Right. So it's a completely voluntary, under your control lifestyle. It's not starvation.
Yeah. You know your own limits and you set your own limits. Nobody is setting that clock for you.
Right. And a lot of fasting too is about learning to listen to your body.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so one of the things that was possibly the hardest thing for me to learn in the beginning was don't eat if you're not hungry, right? So you've probably heard me and Lori talk about sometimes we get to the time we're supposed to end our fast, but we're not hungry, right? We're paying attention to our body, what our body's telling us, and it's telling us, I'm not hungry right now.
Right.
So we fast a little longer. So the fasting is not starvation because it's all under your control. You decide when you're gonna eat, and you decide when you're not going to eat.
Well, and so far as having plenty of nutrition, I mean, we talked about autophagy in another video, and that literally means self-eating.
Right.
You know, there's stuff in there that your body is eating, and you
Yeah.
know, autophagy is that's my favorite phase.
Yeah, I can't wait until we do some videos where we talk about autophagy a little more.
It's
'Cause
wonderful.
Amazing. Yeah. The only nutrients that your body does not store that you do need to replace when you're fasting is electrolytes. Especially if you're going 72 hours or longer with your fast, you need to make sure, one, that you're drinking a lot of water. You should do that with any length of fast. And you need to make sure that you're replacing electrolytes, especially if you're going 72 hours or more. I use some fasting salts that you can order off of Amazon. We'll put the link under the video to those. And if you use those fasting salts, all you do with those is, I think a full serving is 4 scoops a day. They have the exact amount of potassium, magnesium, and salt that if you're fasting, you need in a day.
It says on the bottom it's 5 milliliters.
Yeah, which I figured out, I think is a teaspoon. So they recommend 4 scoops of those a day. Do not do it all in one thing of water. And what I tend to do is I just put it in warm water, and it's like sipping chicken broth or something to me. It's just fine with me. But some people will like put pinches of it into their regular water that they drink through the day. You know, I've heard of people getting like low sodium chicken broth and putting it in there. So it's just like, you know, salted chicken broth.
I was
But no
going to
way.
say, if you dirty fast, you could put it in your bone broth.
Oh, that's true too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of ways of using the fasting salts. The only thing I would say is when you do it, whatever you put it in, like sip it, don't like chug it or try to drink it fast, because you know, salt water drank too fast can make you sick. But you know, just sip it like you do broth or something. Let's also put a link under here to, we did a video already on electrolytes, and there was a document, I think it's a PDF that we put together for that says if you have this symptom, you're probably low on this electrolyte. So that's a good reference. I think if you're having any of those symptoms, you could just go ahead and put a scoop of those fasting salts in some warm water or chicken broth or whatever and sip on that, and it should help those symptoms. I will say here, we're not doctors.
No.
So we're not going to say that 100% of the time that's what's causing you to have those symptoms. But a lot of times when you're fasting and you have those symptoms, the issue is electrolytes. So besides electrolytes, though, while you're fasting, you're not depriving yourself of nutrients.
No.
We should talk some more in another video about, you know, your body learns to go to fat for its energy while you're fasting. But within that fat also, and throughout your body, it also goes into, it releases, I don't know how to say that. It gets to other nutrition that is trapped in that fat.
It's like
that
an hibernating animal.
Yeah, and that was a great example of Dr. Fung too. He was there's all these animals that hibernate for the winter, and they don't starve to death. They're bodygy. They're bodygy. That's autophagy and body.
Bodygy. Oh, new word.
Their bodies basically go through autophagy while they're hibernating. Their bodies go into all that fat they have stored up, all those nutrients that are within that fat and within their liver and all that. And their bodies live on that for the winter time. They don't starve.
Right.
And so, you're not going to starve either, as long as you fast the right way.
Right.
As long as you do it smart, your body's just going to learn to, live off the energy from the fat and the trapped glucose and all these other things in your body. So you're not depriving yourself of nutrients.
Yeah, I know Dr. Osborne, my doctor, talked about how, ancestors for a long time have been fasting. He said back when our ancestors couldn't go to the grocery store, and this is before like farming, this is way back. Yeah. He said they couldn't go out and kill animals to eat in the winter, so they ate when they could get out and find food. So they fasted naturally because that's what happened.
Yeah. And I mean, literally people have been fasting for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
There are religions who do it every single year.
Right.
As part of their religion. And, the further back in time you go, the more common fasting was as part of your religion. So it's not this new fad. It's been around for thousands of years.
When you tell people, please don't use the word diet, you are not dieting. Right. This is a healthy lifestyle decision that you have made, and weight loss is one of the benefits. Health changes in your body is another benefit. So do not use the word diet. This is not a diet. This is a lifestyle change.
Right. And I think that's really important, because if you're thinking of it as a diet, then you're really not understanding, what fasting is. Yes, you do lose weight from it, but it's not a diet.
Yeah. And once you hit a healthy weight, you won't lose weight anymore. You will maintain it. So it is a lifestyle,
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that lifestyle, another benefit of fasting is, like we were talking about, if you go to some social event, if you want to, you can arrange your fast around that social event, right?
Yeah, so good point.
If you're going somewhere and they're going to have amazing food and you're like, I really want to have something while I'm there, have it, right? Just end your fast before, just figure out how you're going to work your fast around that. That's one of the great things about fasting, is it's so flexible.
Yeah, if you usually fast on Thursday, we don't expect you to fast on Thanksgiving.
Right.
You work around it.
Right. And we'll talk about in another video refeeding, because I wouldn't suggest going from not eating for 3 days to eating, I don't know, something heavy. I think Lori and I are a little different with this. If the first thing, and I really learned this lesson recently, if the first thing I eat after I haven't eaten for 2 days is anything basically besides like broth, my stomach doesn't like it. And I tried that a few times recently and it didn't work out. I don't know why I thought it would be okay. It's never been okay.
And unlike her, I've never put anything in my stomach that bothered it after I ate. Now I don't eat pizza and I eat low carb, but I don't have to. I don't have to break it with soup.
Yeah. So
salads. I do a lot of salads.
Yeah. So that's another case of learning to listen to your body.
Mm-hmm.
You'll learn you know, what
Quickly.
your body does okay with when you come off a fast and what it doesn't do okay with. So I would just don't convince yourself that something heavy is going to be okay for that one special event if it's never been okay in the past, which is what I did a few times last week.
Yeah. Bless your heart. Bless your heart.
It's all right. Lesson learned.
Yes. One of the last things we want to talk about is when you do decide that you want to tell people that you're going to fast, make sure that you sound very confident and very educated when you go in. They're going to have questions for you, and you need to be very confident in your answers to them so that they know you have done your reading, you know what you're getting into, and just that you're not going in blind, that you know you're not going to starve yourself to death. You know, just always be ready for questions. And if you don't know the answer to their question, say, you know what, I don't know the answer to that right off hand, but give me a second and I'll look it up on the phone, you know, and you may even get somebody else to fast sometime just based on you sounding so confident and so knowledgeable of them going, oh, wow, well, maybe I can try this. You know, maybe they don't need to lose weight, but you can say, you know what, my knees stopped hurting or something like that, and they can get some other benefit out of it. Yeah.
Especially, I think if you can point them to, like, another thing you might want to tell them is they can look up Jason Fung on YouTube.
Yes.
He has, I don't even know how many videos about fasting, and he's a doctor, so he, you know, he can answer all the questions about you're not malnourished, it's not an eating disorder, you know, all of these things. And so, you know, if you can direct them to something like that, or to the obesity code or life in the fasting lane,
Or old fat and fasting.
or old fat and fasting, and they start to learn, you know, then, for lack of a better way to put it, they're on your side, and
Yeah.
they might decide to do it themselves.
That's what happened with you and me.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Exactly. And, you know, it's like, again, it's like we said about the doctors. People's reactions are based on what they know, right? So if you can change what they know, if you can add to their knowledge, then they'll be more supportive. And that doesn't mean that you have to be able to answer every question they have.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to memorize all this stuff or anything like that. If you can, I think if you can just assure them that you've done your research and point them to resources that they can, you know, look at for themselves. I think that's the best thing. And some people, you'll do that and they're not really interested in learning anymore. They just don't like it, and you're not going to change their mind, and that's okay too.
Yeah. Yeah. Different strokes for different folks.
Yep. All right. And I think that's it. We will put a link to the fasting salts below the video. And also want to put a link to a really good video I found by Jason Fung about fasting and malnutrition and why you are not malnourished while you're fasting. It's a really good video on that. So I recommend it.
And don't be intimidated that it's doctor at the beginning. He's very easy to understand.
Oh,
he is not over medical. He's very normal.
No. Yeah. Yeah. He's, as Lori says, he dumbs it down so the rest of us understand too. You don't have to be a doctor to understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
So I recommend any videos by him.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
All right. Well, is that it?
I think that's all. I finished both sides of my notes.
All right. All right. That's all for now. See you later. Bye, fasters. Happy fasting.
Happy fasting. Bye-bye.